Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to our session. Today, we're going to be talking about the 10 ways you can use Excel to speed up your SAP processes and improve your data quality. I'm Andrew Hayden. I'm the Senior Product Marketing Manager at Precisely for our Automate products. And today, I once again have the distinct pleasure of being joined by one of our outstanding solutions engineers, Bill Wiseman. Bill, great to have you here today. Would you please take a moment and introduce yourself? Tell the folks a little bit more about who you are, what your background is.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Andrew. And as Andrew said, I'm Bill Wiseman. I'm a senior solutions engineer at Precisely Automate. I've been at Precisely Automate for nearly 12 years now, and I think that probably is a testament to how passionate I am about, the solutions that we provide to our customers. My background really comes from finance and SAP. I spent 20 plus years in public and private accounting, and the last 20 plus years, I've been drinking the SAP Kool-Aid in one form or fashion. So very pleased to be here today to share with you how we can, automate your data creation processes and to streamline and expedite your mass data management and mass data change processes. So thank you, Andrew.
Thanks, Bill. And Bill will be back in just a couple of minutes to show you the demonstrations. For those of you in the SAP community who might not be familiar with Precisely, Precisely is the world leader in data integrity. And in 2021, we acquired Windshuttle. So Windshuttle is the leading provider of automation solutions for SAP and SAP processes. And we believe that this is a really great combination to bring those world-class capabilities for SAP automation and combine them with those leading capabilities that Precisely has for data integrity. So data governance, data quality, location intelligence, all of these things within the Precisely portfolio that we're excited to combine and really give you new opportunities to improve your business and make your business better. As we go through this session, if you have questions, please put them in the chat box and someone will try and get back to you during the presentation. If we're not able to, just be aware that somebody from Precisely will get back to you with an answer to your question. So it will not go unanswered. So let's get started. Now, one of the key things we've always been focused on with our Automate products is making an impact across your entire SAP landscape. And when it comes to talking about using Excel to manage those SAP processes, we believe this is super important. And this is an area where we can help drive better business, better results, and better utilization of your SAP system. And so as we go through today and talk about these 10 ways that you can use Excel to improve your SAP processes, just keep this in mind. This is what we're talking about, is being able to replace those multiple SAP screens with just that one simple SAP workbook. And using Excel to manage SAP processes isn't just for simple things. It's for some of those data-intensive processes you've got, things like mass pricing changes, sales orders, invoicing, plant maintenance, personnel updates, journal entries. We've got loads of customers using us for journal entries in this exact same way. And then master data creation and maintenance, where you have those highly complex processes that you're collecting lots and lots of data. And what we've learned over the years is a significant number of companies use Excel already to collect, gather, and manage data outside of their SAP system. So what we're really doing is helping you continue to use those processes, but eliminate many steps that happen in between that Excel sheet and SAP. Now, the first thing you can do with Excel to manage your SAP data is speed up that data creation process. And again, we know that a lot of customers already use Excel to gather that data and create it. And what happens is it then gets manually entered into SAP, but we can eliminate that step. So you can create hundreds of records in Excel and then post them directly into SAP. As Sealed Air discovered, Automate Studio gives us the benefits to run reports, and we can easily see what our time saving is. With our top 10 transactions alone, we saved 22,500 hours in a single quarter. And we've got data on hundreds of transactions and how much time you can expect to save using our Studio product to get your data from Excel into SAP and manage your data this way. The second way you can use it is to accelerate data updates. And this is a great example of where you can extract data out of SAP. You can manage and manipulate that data or modify that data within the Excel, and then you can repost hundreds of records at a time. And we've got many, many examples of customers doing this. Dorman is a great example in the automotive space where they just had to make a fairly simple change in one of their materials where they had to change it from manufactured to kitted, but it was affecting things like routings, bills of materials, other things. And when they did an analysis to figure out what it would cost them to do it manually, which was traditionally the way they'd done it, they figured it was going to take about 60 hours per 100 materials and was going to cost them about $4,500. And when they found Automate Studio, they estimated that they could change those same 100 materials in about 5 hours using the exact same people that they already had, and it would only cost them about $400. So in the first quarter that they were changing, and they have thousands of these materials they had to do this simple change on, they estimated that they saved about $125,000. So being able to do this and extracting data, make those updates and repost it can save you a considerable amount of money in a very short period of time. The third area where you can see benefits by using Excel to manage your SAP data is you can improve your data quality. And there's many different ways that this applies, but one of the key ones is using live SAP validation. So you can actually check the data in that Excel spreadsheet against SAP before you post it. So you can find any errors and you can make those changes without actually posting the data into SAP. You can predefine field values. You can create standardized fields. If you use a lot of SAP F4 lookups as you're entering data, you can do those directly in the Excel data or Excel worksheet, sorry. You can also have required field designations, and you can copy from reference records directly into Excel. So you can do a lot of things to help really improve that initial data quality going into SAP using Excel to SAP. Now I'm going to turn it over to Bill, and he's going to show you a demonstration of the power you can have with Studio and how easy it is for your business to create these scripts and use Studio in order to manage your SAP data. Bill?
And thank you, Andrew. I appreciate that introduction. And so this morning we're going to talk a little bit about and present to you Precisely Automate solution around really speeding up the data creation process. But before we get started, I'd like to talk about the personas that are involved in this process. So there's really two personas. The first persona is the developer who creates, records the script, creates the template, maps the template in the fashion that they want to design it for their particular use case. And what you see on the screen here in this case is the creation of a material. The other persona is the end user persona, and that's what you're looking at here. This is the people in the field that are populating the data in the template that will eventually end up in our SAP environment. So if we think about speeding up the data creation process, you think about creating a finished good in SAP, and there could be up to 25 different screens you would navigate through, hundreds of objects that you would populate, and then we would be doing those, simply one at a time. But in this case, we can capture those screens and fields that we want for our particular use case, map it to an Excel template, and then give it to our end users in order for them to populate data. So, like I said, what you're looking at here is a material create process, and we'll just kind of scroll across and you can see all the different tables and fields and objects that I've updated in this process, or will be updating in this process. All the characteristics of the material. We have sales organization information. We have tax information. We have MRP information, production scheduling. So there's just a whole host of objects around these particular finished goods. And, it's up to you. It's really how you define it in your organization as to how you design these scripts and templates. So as we input data into the system, we want to, it's good to know that the security features are there though. So all the authorizations, roles, and profiles that you've established in your SAP system are completely adhered to during this process. It allows me to give it to end users, although they cannot change the way that I've formatted a particular script or template. But there are some functional advantages of using this process. So first and foremost, as I said, you're going to have the security of a licensed user for the Precisely Automate. You're going to have your access to any SAP environment that you currently have, that you're currently working with. It could be a production, a QA or dev environment, or maybe multiple instances of SAP that are running within our organization that you can leverage the Precisely Automate solution. We can embed, as many scripts as we want to. In this particular case, we only have a single script in this instance. But you can have multiple scripts where you can maybe create a material and then maybe a BOM and a routing and so forth and so on, changing pricing and so forth. One of the nice things is the usability for the end user. So if there's something in the template that I'm not familiar with, or I don't know exactly how to populate a particular field in a transaction, I have access to my SAP environment. So we can look up values within SAP, similar to hitting the F4 when you're working in SAP, but we have direct access to the SAP environment from the template, which is very nice. So we want to make sure that our end users are, doing the very best, complete, correct data before it goes into SAP. So speaking of that, we also have the capability of validating the data before it goes into the SAP environment. So in other words, what am I saying? We just want to make sure that the data that we've input in our template meets with the business criteria that we've established in our SAP environment. So I'm just going to go ahead and kick that process off here. We're going to validate all these records that we have. And what it's doing is it's calling SAP. It is pushing those against the SAP environment, and then it's returning back log file information, which is important to me. I see that I have 12 successful validations and 2 errors. So now I'll look at the information that came back from SAP. So it didn't post anything. It really took it through the first step of the commit process before, and then sort of backed out of SAP before posting. So what we have here is we see that we have an error with the base unit of measure, Mara mains over here. And so we're just going to go ahead and correct that. And then in this particular instance, we have a division that doesn't exist. So we're going to correct that error. Well, let's just say you had hundreds of these records. Instead of having to revalidate every record in our template, we can simply do a delta, which only looks at those validations that had errors in them. So I'm just going to do a delta check to see if I've corrected my errors properly, and then we'll be ready to post the data into SAP. A couple of other things that I would mention is you can do things like schedule the operation to take place at maybe a later date, a later hour, a particular time that you might want to schedule this to run. So maybe you want to run something in off hours. Well, we can use the scheduling device here that's incorporated in the solution. So now all we want to do is create the transaction in our SAP environment. So we're just going to go ahead and hit run, and we'll just run all of our range of materials that we're going to create in the process. So as you saw, we populated the data in our template, we validated the data in our template, and then we successfully uploaded that data into our SAP environment. And much like SAP, when we create a finished good, we get that log file information that tells us we have created material Excel demo 1 in our SAP WE6 environment. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Andrew.
Thanks, Bill. I hope people found that super informative, and you'll be back in a few minutes to show us another demonstration. I'm looking forward to that. So the fourth way that the Precisely Automate portfolio can help you improve your overall business processes is we can help you be more compliant. And this is when you go from Studio to using our process automation platform, which is Evolve. And there you can manage these Excel files through a workflow process. So if you're using that Excel file and it needs to go through something like a review and approval, Evolve will take that file, centrally manage it through that review and approval process. It will track it completely so that your process is completely compliant, and it's also auditable. So you know exactly what happened and who touched that data when. Now, the fifth thing you can do is you can streamline your transition to SAP S/4HANA. SAP has a number of really outstanding tools to help you make that transition, but there are areas where it just doesn't work as well. And so we've had a lot of customers who've used Studio or used Evolve for parts of that transition, for some of the data cleanup, some of the data extraction, some of the actual posting into S/4HANA. In fact, we've actually had a couple of customers use us to do their complete migration to S/4HANA, and Scientific Drilling is a great example of that. They ran into a problem, which was in the business, they suddenly had it was a downturn in their business and their budget got cut. And they could no longer use outside consultants or SAP consultants. They had to do all this in-house. And they found that they could use the Automate tools to manage that entire process. And as a matter of fact, what they were able to do is, despite their budget being cut, they still had to hit a very tight deadline to go live with S/4HANA, and they were able to do that entire migration. So move all of the data from their ECC system to their S/4HANA system, just using our Automate tools. And as they said, without Precisely Automate software, we could never have finished the data migration successfully. It really saved our S/4HANA project. So they were able to get live on time, on budget, despite the challenges that they were faced with. One of the other great ways you can use Excel to SAP is you can streamline a lot of data conversions. And Columbia Sportswear is a company that we work with a lot and uses us for all of their data conversions. Because what it does is it helps them eliminate those manual conversions. They're no longer pulling data out of legacy systems and then having to manage it manually and make any changes manually. They're able to extract it into one of our Studio-enabled templates, manage the data within an Excel file, and it can be any number of different ways that they do it, and then post that data directly into SAP. And this has saved them significant time and significant money going through that conversion. Now, you can also use it for if you've got mergers and acquisition activity. You've acquired another company and they've got another SAP system. You can, again, migrate that data and use it to move that data from one SAP system to another, or they've got a different ERP system or a legacy system you need to get that data into SAP. We've had many customers who've used us to do that. And you can clean that data you can clean that data in Excel before you move it into SAP. So there's a lot of benefits if you're going through and have to do a lot of data conversions. So with that in mind, I'm going to turn it back over to Bill, and he's going to show you some of the other great capabilities that we've got that I mentioned earlier about our Automate product. So primarily Automate Studio, and think about the ways that this can help benefit you and your business.
And thank you again, Andrew. I appreciate that. And so in this second demo, we are going to walk through a process of accelerating material updates in your SAP system. So in the first demo, you saw me creating new materials. We created mass amounts of materials in my SAP system. In this particular demonstration, what we're going to do is we're going to extract data from SAP. We're going to change that data, and then we're going to load that data back into our SAP environment. So, for instance, we've already created those materials. Now we need to make some changes to those materials that we created. And the way we're able to do this is through Precisely Automate Studio Query, which allows me to expose tables and fields in my SAP environment, to map those to an Excel template, and then I can start to evaluate that data of those records. And then if I need to make some changes, I can make those changes. And then using Precisely Automate Studio Transaction, I can update those records back into my SAP system. So we talked about a lot of the functionality, the lookup functionality, the validate function in my system, being able to schedule and things like that. One other feature I would like to point out is backing up the data. So especially when you're making changes to data. So if I'm making changes to data, we all know that there's no undo button in my SAP system. So if I incorrectly type something in that might actually meet validation, but is still incorrect or maybe missing data, then maybe I want to make sure that I have a copy of the original state of those records before I made the changes. So I can back those up, I can put them in another sheet in my Excel template, and that will allow me to, if I had errors in my update, I could restore my records all back to the original state that they were in before I made those changes. So if someone, let's say, incorrectly keyed in pricing information around these materials, we could go back, store it to the original state, and then make those updates. So again, we talked about the two personas, the developer. So the developer would be, in this case, the person that wrote the query and designed it. They designed it to emulate the transactions so that we can do this round trip scenario where we extract, change, and upload. So what I'm going to show you first is, and I mentioned in the first demo that we could embed more than one script. We can also embed query scripts and transaction scripts in our template. So I'm going to call up my query script. And one of the great things about the query functionality that sets us apart from the others is the ability to, give our end users, this selection criteria at runtime. So in other words, I worked in SAP for many years in finance. I never ran the same report twice. Maybe I ran it for this plant today, or maybe this profit center tomorrow, or cost center. You get the picture. So every day is kind of fluid with my queries. And so now we allow our end users to have that capability to change on the fly what data they're actually pulling out of the SAP system. So in this case, we put in some hard-coded information. I could look up data to see, what kind of descriptions there are of material. What are my plant numbers? I could look those up and I could drop those in there. So, but for this case, I'm just going to go with the default values that are in my query selection. I'll just say okay, and it's going to pull back those 50 records and it's going to drop them into the template. Again, it adheres to the authorizations, roles and profiles and security that we've established. So I can't see a table that I don't have access to in my SAP environment. So we pull back these records, and now we've kind of examined those. I'll just kind of briefly look across all these different areas. And as you can see, if you think about it, all the fields that you navigate through, as I said in the earlier demo, all the fields that we have to navigate through to make these changes. In this case, I'm going to take the decimals out of, let's just go ahead and do it for the entire column. We can do that. Let's drop this here. And we'll just decrease that. Yes, yeah, I'm pretty sure. Let's just decrease these. Actually, it's not going to let me do that. So I'm guess the way my formatting is. So I'm just going to go ahead and put in my values here. We'll just key these values into what I have here. And then we will just change the length of it because I know that my production is not going to allow me to change it or to have such a long field or decimal value. It works in whole values. So, I know for a fact that we're going to have some errors here. So I'll just go ahead and take those out to begin with. And then, then we can revalidate. Maybe we've got issues with the item category, but as I said in our earlier demo, we can validate the data, before we push it back. So I'll shift over to my transaction script. So we extracted, we've changed, and maybe we want to change. Let's call it this. We'll change the descriptions for all our materials. But it could be anything. It could be pricing. It could be weights. It could be, whatever the case may be. Storage locations, you name it. We can change in this mass function and really, really expedite that process of updating. So let's just go ahead. Let's validate the first 5 rows to make sure we've got some good clean data before we post it into our SAP system. And then we'll see as we do, we'll get our validate feedback here. And there we have it. Success, success, success. So we validated, we've made changes to our data, and now we're ready to really update those in our system. Let's just go ahead and change all those material descriptions, and now we're ready to run, because now we've corrected everything in our environment. We're ready to run. I think we did have maybe an error or 2 down here, but we'll just go ahead and run the first 5 records so you can see. And now we're going to create those. So we've extracted, we've changed, we've validated, and now we're ready to post those transactions into the SAP system. And we'll just kick off the first 5 so that you can see how these records have been updated. No changes made on the first one, and then all these other materials have been changed. So I'm going to, with that, turn it back over to Andrew.
Thanks, Bill. That was great. And I hope people have a much better idea with these 2 demonstrations that Bill has shown you for how you can use these Excel to SAP capabilities to improve your business, to really drive benefits and help the people within your business as well. And we're going to talk about some of those benefits for just your basic employees as we go forward. So one of the things that being able to use Excel as a tool to manage your SAP data is it can help you make better business decisions, because, and this is in the area of reporting primarily, but working with our customers, one of the things we know is there's a lot of great standard reporting tools in SAP, but most reports tend to be ad hoc reports. So you're extracting data out of SAP, usually into an Excel file, and often you're either doing that reporting and analysis directly in Excel, or you're using another tool like Tableau or Power BI or something of that nature to really help you further enhance that reporting and your analysis of your data. So we help a lot of people in those areas. So you can extract that data out. You can do it in the specific tables you want to. You can actually extract data from multiple tables to do that reporting and analysis. We help a lot of companies do this. So another way we can help drive improvements in your business is freeing up SAP IT resources. One of the things I mentioned earlier is we've always been focused on helping you make a greater impact across your business. And one of the ways we do this is by really driving a lot of those capabilities to develop scripts, to manage that SAP data, to automate your processes into the business. So you're not required to have SAP IT resources for every change you need to make or every update you need to. We often see that the people who are developing these automation scripts are people who are closest to the process. They're people in the business. So you don't have to go to the SAP IT team every time you need to create a new script, change a script, make an update, do a new process, especially with these data intensive processes that are perfect for an Excel to SAP kind of tool like you see with Automate Studio. And another good example of this is Alcatel Submarine Networks. And what they found was with Precisely Automate software, SAP is easy to access and our lines of business can manage data by themselves without specialist ERP knowledge. So they don't have to go and either hire people who have specialist SAP knowledge, or go out to a consultant and spend the money just to have them be able to, create those business scripts, create those automations. It's a great way for them to save and drive enhancements throughout their business. So think about what this could mean for your business. If you're able to develop and manage automation scripts and automation processes closer to those processes in the business, you're not having to burden IT with a lot of small things. They can focus on those larger value-added tasks and those larger value-added processes. Now, obviously, using Excel, you can get employees up to speed faster. Excel is a very common interface. Lots of people know it, and not everyone needs to know everything there is to know about SAP and the SAP GUI screens. If they know Excel, they can use Studio and they can manage their SAP data just using Excel. There's no need to train them on SAP or necessarily train them on the SAP GUI. And finally, one of the big ones we find is it just improves morale, because you eliminate a lot of those mundane tasks. You're no longer asking people who may be accounting professionals or other kinds of professional backgrounds to be data entry clerks half their time. Just understanding and spending most of their time dealing with SAP data entry. Now they're able to manage it in Excel, speed up that process by huge amounts of time. And as I mentioned earlier, we've got lots of data that shows what kind of time savings you can expect. And what it enables those people to do, especially your professional staffs, is really focused on those higher value-added tasks that they have and those value-added opportunities that they can bring to the business. They're business professionals for a reason. They don't want to be SAP data entry clerks, and we can help eliminate a lot of that. And as this table shows you, there's massive time savings that you can see at an individual T-code level, especially if you're doing a lot of this stuff just with manual data entry. So those are the 10 ways that you can use Excel to manage your SAP data and accelerate and improve your business processes. I often like using this quote from Justin Trudeau to help give context to some of the things we talk about, especially in the automation space. And the quote is, "The pace of change has never been this fast, but it will never be this slow again." And as we collect more data and as our processes become more complex, we firmly believe that automation is one way to really get a handle on this level of acceleration that is constantly happening, because we all feel every day like things are getting faster. But finding tools like our Automate portfolio really gives you the ability to get a handle on that and improve your business without overburdening your people or your systems. So again, think about this. The pace of change has never been this fast, but it will never be this slow again. We have tools that we believe can help you and your staff be able to corral and control that level of change, so they're not burdened by so many manual, slow, tedious tasks. So finally, I just want to thank everyone for joining us for this session. Just a little bit more information about Precisely. As I mentioned at the beginning of the session, we are the leader in data integrity. We've got about 12,000 customers worldwide. We are in 99 of the Fortune 100. We do business in over 100 countries, and we've got about 2,500 employees these days. We are trusted by many of the largest brands in the world. They trust us with their data, and hopefully you can trust us with your data and your automation in your SAP system as well. And we have an outstanding number of technology partners as well to help get up to speed and manage that data in your business and across your business much more efficiently and effectively. Let's definitely continue the conversation. If you would like more information, you can find it. You can continue to find it at windshuttle.com. You can also find more information at precisely.com. Contact us directly, and we can set up a short talk if you've got a specific issue or a specific problem within SAP that you think using Excel to manage that SAP data can help you solve. So once again, I want to thank everyone for joining us today for this session. Bill, any final words of wisdom for our attendees?
Just to say to the audience that remember that Precisely Automate is really the way to help you to, again, expedite your creation processes, not only master data, but any transactional data or really any functional area of SAP, and also those those mass data changes that are so critical to our organizations today to maintain, data integrity throughout this data process. So thank you, Andrew. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you. Well said. So once again, thanks everybody, and I hope everyone has a happy and healthy day.